Hi, welcome to the Founders Disco. I'm your host Shuj, and we're here today with Deborah Tyson, CEO of Blisspot. Hi, Deborah. How are you?
Hi, Shuj. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you. Yeah, I'm going really well, thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. Tell us a bit about yourself and Blisspot.
Well, I started Blisspot 9 years ago. I have always been a passionate entrepreneur my entire life, or well, my adult life at least. And I started a business when I was 24. That was my first experience with being an entrepreneur. It was a design and multimedia type business, and I loved that. And then I had a healthy fast food business, and I started Blisspot because I could see there was a need, even though people might be quite affluent and have a lot of really good things going in their life, which are not to be discounted. I could tell that quite often people were really struggling with their mental and emotional health, and that presents itself as often not getting along well with your kids or your partner or the people you really love, or not going and getting that promotion at work that you deserve. It presents in all sorts of different ways. And I believe, this is a personal belief, but business is one of the best personal growth journeys you can ever do, because it's usually quite hard and you'll be constantly challenged to, if your business is growing, you've got to grow, because it's, a lot of the energy of the business comes from you. So from very early on, from 24, when I wasn't coping in business, which was quite often, I was overwhelmed. I had a lot of a team really quickly. I was 24 and I had 7 people working for me within the year. So I had to learn all about so many things. I had to learn about cash flow and chargeable hours and human resources. I actually went and did a human resource course, which I loved. I felt like I was home, and that really got me on my personal growth journey, because I realized you don't have to have teams that have conflict, or um, you don't have to have, even financially, if you work it out with your cash flow, there's so many things you can put in place to support yourself when you're struggling. But it takes growth. You need to be open, get good advice, talk to people, and I really learned the benefit of not struggling alone. That was a big thing, because I realized I was doing the best I could with the skills that I had. So if I was struggling, that was a massive sign to me to go and get the help and support, read a book, listen to it. In those days, it was a cassette. Now you can, obviously, the world's exploded with fantastic information with podcasts like yours and books, audio learning. There's so many ways which you can gather new skills, and that is extremely positive and supportive to us as a human race. So I started Blisspot seeing the need to share life skills that make people's lives easier. When I started this business, I thought, what is my true passion? What do I really love doing? What would I do it if I wasn't even going to get paid for it? And that was actually sharing life skills. It's really gratifying if people are stuck and you can share something that you've learned that actually can help them on their journey as well. And I'm also constantly learning for other people, from other people, to support me on my journey as well. That's a never ending and ongoing journey. So I brought together a community of leading global experts from all around the world who contribute ideas to Blisspot. It's a community. And from that, we support people on their personal growth journey. People get to choose the area that they'd like to work on, and we offer support and life skills in the 8 areas that humanity commonly struggles with. So that is physical health, low energy, relationships, financial well-being, anxiety, stress, feeling alone and disconnected, and relationships is a huge one. It's a huge one. So we give support in all those sorts of areas with a very innovative learning system that we've put together. We've spent a lot of time on that. So yes, that's a quick background. Well, a long background probably.
Yeah, amazing though. That's really cool. I liked a lot of like what you said early on about if I wasn't going to get paid, what would I be doing? Like that is I think as founders and you know that serial entrepreneur streak where you're constantly like trying to find that thing, like identifying that is the trait of like how to start something you're passionate about and work on it long term. It's a really good attitude to have towards whatever it is you're doing. Because even on your worst days, you're like, actually, no, I love what I'm doing. And you still want to burn it all to the ground every so often, but it it makes it a lot easier and a lot more pleasant, and a lot more rewarding than like, oh, made 20K this week, right? But do you actually care about what you're doing? You know, I love that. And when did the idea first start sort of coming to you? How did you get to that point?
I was working as a kinesiologist when my children were smaller and going to school, younger and going to school. So I wanted to have, I'd sold my second business by that time, and I wanted to be able to spend the time with them. I wanted to be able to drop them off and pick them up, but I also love my work. So studied lots of different modalities, including NLP and theta healing, lots to do around energy. I love energy and the power of energy. And I loved being a practitioner, but I feel my business roots and calling to work with teams was like it was calling me home. I wanted to start up a third business, and that's when I start to really dig deep and think, well, this might be the last business I do in this lifetime. What is my big passion? And I've always been an avid student of yoga. I love yoga. I love philosophies, all the ancient wisdom, so incredible. The Mayans, the Aztecs, just all the yogis, the Tao Te Ching. That really resonates with me, and I believe a lot of those philosophies can really help people in these times when people are actually really struggling. There's a lot going on in the world, as we all know. So I thought, yeah, how am I going to put this together? And I thought it needs to be bigger than just me. I've got my own body of work in emotional mastery, which I've trained in, and I'm very passionate about teaching people to how, and I'm a trained mindfulness meditation teacher as well, how their mind works, how to work with their mind, how to understand their thoughts, and how it really impacts their emotions and behaviors. And the biggest underlying work that I love to do is training people or teaching people how to get out of survival and into their natural thriving state. Because when we're in survival, we tend to make poor decisions that makes everything else worse. So if we can take back control and get into our empowered state and act from our inner wisdom, which we all have, our intuition, what really resonates with us and what is really right for us, we can go on a path that is much easier rather than making decisions that aren't right for us and then having to take time to undo them all. Although there are learnings in that I would never underestimate the value of that. I guess ideally we want to get to a point where we've worked with ourselves and we've trained ourselves. If you want to be a good athlete, you need to do the training. If you want to be really healthy in your body, you have to eat well. There's no other way you can do it. You can't eat McDonald's every single day. You can maybe eat it now and then expect to be healthy. It's the same with our mind and our emotions. And I think because I will say anxiety and stress and depression are so widely spread on our planet at the moment, people are realizing they have to take control to go forward. They have to learn to master their emotions and their mind and understand their behaviors so that they can. We all might have depressed moments or we all might have anxious moments, but we can be aware of that and go, what am I going to dig out of my toolbox, my healthy toolbox of habits, to get through this period of time to really help and support myself? And that's true empowerment. It's not that we're never going to have bad times or that everything's going to go fantastically well for us forever. it's going to be that we can always try to create the best life we can for ourselves, aligned with our intuition and our inner wisdom. But then when unexpected things happen, we know that we can get through it. We know, we look for the positives and how we are going to get through this time, the positives within ourselves and our skills and what we have. People are a lot stronger than they think they are, generally speaking. People are very strong. You just look at the incredible people that have done things in history in great times of adversity. And I think globally there are a lot of adverse times and a lot of very challenging things going on. But as human beings, we can reach into that loving place within and know that we have the skills and the resources to get through it, or we can get the support to help us on that journey.
Man, I love that. There's so much in there that we could run an entire hour on, right?
Yeah, easily, yeah. We could
Yeah,
do a
I've
weekend
been
workshop on it, in fact.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been practicing a lot of uh, like the elements that you described, particularly that survival state. Like I over the last few years since starting this business and just life in general, I had to do a lot of, looking in and being like, why are you doing what you're doing? Where are these decisions coming from? That kind of thing. Usually it wasn't work related, it was usually out of work, right? At home when, certain behaviors or feelings or whatever it was. And discovered a lot about myself and sort of the reactions, the triggers, um, finding my biggest stress trigger is when there's too much, right? Particularly at home, we like as founders, we carry everything around all the time, right? Um, and I found sometimes even if there's too much noise, TV's on, kids are trying to get my attention, that kind of thing, I'm like, I'll start shutting down a little bit
Mm.
and identifying things like that. Not being an unpleasant person, you know. Um, and I get anxious when the opposite, when there's not enough. I'm trying to create that balance of challenge as well as slow down, right? And stopping alcohol. I haven't really had even a drink in almost a year because I found that, while I didn't drink frequently, maybe once every couple of weeks, once a month was probably more on my level. That feeling you start getting when after a couple or whatever, that for me was a trigger of survival mode. My decision making was atrocious.
Yeah.
There was no, yeah, just and identifying that and making those changes to my lifestyle, to my schedule, how I arrange things. Even now, if a day is a bit too much and I have a call at 8 p.m. or whatever, I will try and respectfully reschedule that because I know I'm not going to be my best in that moment. And I'd rather, you know, give someone my best than turn up frazzled and sort of, you know, not being able to focus on them. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, well,
What you guys
oh,
do?
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Go
just to
on.
add to that, I mean,
Mm,
that's all about empowerment and self-awareness, what you're doing there, because the best we can do is look at ourselves and work out what our triggers are. Some people don't even know what their triggers are. They think it's the other person, it's the economy, it's everything, the boss at work, it's everything but themselves. And when you can look at yourself and work out what your triggers are, and as you said, lifestyle changes, respect yourself. Yes, if you've got a massive big day, you're not going to be your best at 8 p.m. on a Friday night. And as you say, the other person, often when I've rescheduled things for that very reason, the other person's quite often relieved as well. They're like, oh, thank goodness, because I had a really full day too. And that comes back to my mantra: if it's not right for you, it's really not right for everybody else as well. Because often we think, oh, it's coming from kindness. Oh, oh, I should do that because I don't want to let them down, you know. And as you said, the word respectfully, that's a beautiful word in there. You're doing it with respect for yourself and for them. And if it's not right for you, it's not right for everybody else. And every single time, without exception, that I've done something that I didn't really want to do, but I thought I should because, you know, I thought I should. I had that should voice. It hasn't worked out really that well for anybody. Because I
Yeah,
don't
for
think you're
sure.
going into it with the right energy. You're there, but you don't think you should be there. You're tired. You're not,
Mm,
maybe you're coming down with something, you're not feeling well. And self love, people talk about love and changing the world, but I believe one of the most powerful things we can do is be loving and kind to ourselves, and that will change the world. That will, because that impacts every relationship we have. It has a real
mm,
flow on effect. For example, what you're saying, I'm going to cancel it. I'm just using as an example that appointment tonight because I've decided that I'm feeling too frazzled and overwhelmed and it's not the right thing for me. And now instead, you'll probably spend a couple of hours unwinding or being with your kids. You'll be more relaxed because you've looked after yourself. They'll be more relaxed. But if you didn't do it, you did it and you're feeling tense and uptight because your body's telling you this is too much for me just for tonight. It won't be on another day, but just for tonight. That tension then flows onto your kids. You don't have as much
yeah.
patience. You want to get them into bed so you can rest. You're
Oh,
tired. You're trying to do
100%.
everything. So, yeah, it's really
Yeah.
important to
You,
consider our own actions. Yeah.
yeah, you described last night in a nutshell, right? My son, my older son was he's 3. So, I still have to put him to bed and sort of, settle him in. At about 6:30 p.m., I knew that it was not going to be an easy one. I had a call booked at 8 o'clock. And I'd been in that situation enough, especially because my wife's not home, right? I can't
Of
just be like,
course.
hey, can you take this? I've got to. So, again, very respectfully sent a message, an email, being like, look, tonight's not the night. My son needs me. And instantly there was a shift in my attitude towards the whole evening, right? My whole like, all right, just finished work, dinner, bottle, bath, that craziness. And all of a sudden, I'm not stressed about when my son goes to bed, if he's going to get to bed on time, if he's going to wake up in half an hour looking for me, you know,
Yeah, and you couldn't
that
be
kind of
there.
thing.
That's right.
Exactly. And I can be present with him. And then once, the reschedule happens, I can actually be present with the person that I wanted to be fully present for in the first place, without being stuck in the middle of it and being, oh, sorry, man, my child just woke up. Like, let's do this another time. You know what I mean? Like, um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I had the right, everything was right for what I needed to do at the time. And when the time comes, it'll all be right for when I spend time with that person. Yeah, yeah, it
And
was
I think it's very important that you acknowledge, like, that's not a normal situation because if your wife's there, you can tag team and help each other out. But if she's away, you do need more support. You need more time to be with your kids. And
yeah, yeah.
I think
Um,
it's really
and
beautiful
I've
to acknowledge that.
learned from that, right? Not that she's a big,
Yeah.
travel bug or anything, but she does have times where she needs to travel for work or get things done in the city or whatever. And those times are usually planned in advance. I have learned. Close my calendar in the evenings during those times. Simple, you know? M- Make the adjustment. Learning
That's
from
it. Yeah.
those situations as well is like super important, right? Because if you're like, if I end up creating this exact scenario again, what have I actually learned? What have I changed in my life? I'm just inviting more stress, right?
I
Um,
love that. It's being really responsible and it's taking action, isn't it? Being proactive and
yeah,
controlling yourself and looking after your family.
absolutely. In a direct and indirect way as well, looking after myself so that even the next morning I can be present, right? And I'm not carrying that baggage through the night because I've found that these things really compound.
They
I
do.
have a really bad stress response. I get chronic psoriasis. I take, you know, injections for it and stuff. But my body actually falls apart during times of high stress. And because it compounds, you know, you
It
start
does.
stressing about something today, it affects your sleep. You carry things into the next morning, even though you wake up and you're not thinking about it, right?
That's right.
It's still in you. Yeah, like that whole thing, I've been dealing with the psoriasis stuff for like over 10 years now. But that experience has actually taught me like you need to deal with things appropriately, learn, pivot, and eliminate those situations where possible because it just
I could not agree more, 110%. And just adding to that, well, two things. I was going to say this is a silly little, funny little anecdote, but it might be helpful
Mhm.
to the audience. I remember when my children were young, I had three under six, and I was doing too much before I learnt to just really pare back and focus on the things that are important. I was studying at Lifeline. I was working. Not full time, but I was still working. I was studying kinesiology, and actually quite a few other things, as well as running all the three kids around. And every time I had an assignment for college when I was studying kinesiology, and that was a very intense course. I had loads of assignments, and I'd
yeah.
really need them to go to sleep by 8 o'clock to have the whole three of them staggered into bed by 8 o'clock. The eldest could go then, and then I was going to start my assignments. Without fail, they picked up on my tension and they would not go to sleep. It went on and on forever. They wanted apple, they wanted this, they were hungry. It just went on and on because, and then I was getting more and more tense, thinking, well, I'm going to be up till 3 o'clock in the morning doing my assignment and then trying to
Yeah.
get up and run the whole household the next day. So it is very important to manage and pick and choose. And we did bring our children into the world. We made that decision. So making sure that their needs are met while balancing it with our own needs, but making sure that tension does not,
Oh,
yeah,
and kids,
tr- tread.
similarly with animals, I found our dogs can pick up on these things, right? And it's actually like I sort of have learned to approach it in a different way because the feeling, right? You've got, you know, one of those days where you wake up, you're like, man, the laundry's piled up. I got to do laundry. I've got to, you know, mop the floors because there was a spill yesterday, or you've got all these things you need to get done, and that's already sort of on your mind. Or assignments due tonight, right? Kids pick up on that, and all of a sudden they need you in that moment more than they ever have in their lives,
For sure.
right? And you sort of feel like, oh man, why now? But actually, it's their way of trying to show you support, right? For whatever reason, they know that you're stressed, that you're having a tough time. They just don't understand that this means give dad space. Their response is to cling to you.
Be there for
Because
you. Yeah, in
for
their way.
them, when they need comfort, what do? We pick them up, we cuddle them, we show them toys, we do whatever, right? So they're trying to emulate that. And sort of looking at it that way, I actually sometimes when I'm stressed and I don't even know it because you're just like going through the motions and get it one thing, bam, 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 bam. And all of a sudden, my two kids both want to be picked up at the same time. I'm like, should slow down.
I love that.
Like,
That is a
you
beautiful,
know?
beautiful way to look
Um,
at it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I've stopped looking at it as a burden, but as a sign of my own behavior and the energy that I'm giving out. Because even the dogs, like after a heavy day, instead of sitting in their bed, they'll be hovering by my feet, trying to jump up on the couch. And they very rarely do that. But I know that that's because I've given out so much tension that they're like, bro, you always laugh when I jump on your lap, you know? And I try and take those signs as, all right, stop doing things for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. have some water, have a snack, whatever go through those processes and then move on to the next thing. Yeah.
I love that. And that actually brings me to my second point. You're tuning into your environment and you're taking notice, like, because everything around you is like a reflection. You're taking notice of that reflection and creating some space. So I love that. That's so beautiful.
Mm.
I was going to say, this is actually maybe a bit similar. What I was going to suggest as well, or talk about, is what I've learned over time, and also from all the incredible experts on Blisspot, is that stress does compound. Absolutely. And if we don't take notice and make a change and create some space, that's when we explode. And people are going, oh my goodness, what is wrong with her, or what's wrong with him? Because we've just let it compound. Or in really serious cases, people get really sick. Or I think lots of times too, people have accidents because they're not thinking properly. They've really let it compound. So something that I implement in my own life, and we've put together a system for people in Blisspot, is daily routines to support them on their journey, so that they are actually dedicating half an hour to themselves in the morning and maybe 5 minutes at night to practice some gratitude, and then do a sleep meditation, because sleep's a big issue for people. If we don't sleep properly, it does, stress more easily compounds, and we can get ourselves into more difficult situations because we go into survival more easily, because our body's trying to shut down and conserve our energy because we haven't been filling up our battery every night, which is what sleep does for us. So we cannot underestimate the value of sleep. And it's interesting to note, because I love animals like you do, Shush, that animals, the human species is the only animal that does not sleep when they're tired. Every single other animal, they will, if they're like a horse that's got to work for the day, obviously they can't, but if they're left to their own devices and following their own body clock, a dog will just sit down and sleep when it's tired. Whereas humans, we see that sleep, that 8 hours or 7.5 hours, as time we can eat into to get ahead, to do more things, and it's really not healthy for us. So that's one thing, sleep. And then the second thing is that beautiful morning routine. People might like to do things at different times of the day, and I totally respect that, but the morning when you wake up, it's a very unique and special time, because your mind in that first 15 minutes hasn't fully kicked in yet, generally speaking. So you'll be laying there and it's a bit of a blank. And so this is a time where you can set your day up right. So the first thing I do in the morning, I just wake up, and I might lay there for a few minutes if I want to, but generally speaking, I'll sit up into my meditation pose and I will do some meditation. I will set my intent for the day. I will do some exercise. I'll drink water. Most human beings are dehydrated. We've got a lot better education about that now than, say, 20 years ago or so, but still we forget to drink and our body's not in balance. It helps to hydrate our body, our cells, but also it oxygenates our brain, and along with exercise. So at Blisspot, we actually follow that. Because a lot of times when people are stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, they don't even know where to start on their personal journey. They don't know what to start with. So we actually provide programs, morning programs, where people will be given a meditation on the topic that they've chosen. So say it's relationships, it'll be about relationships. 10 minutes of education about relationships, and then an exercise. So it'll be tailored to men or women, depending on what program that you've chosen. And at night you get a gratitude practice and a sleep practice. So if you're doing those habits, because it's not really the big thing that changes your whole life, it's what you do consistently and often that makes the biggest difference in your life. It's building on the James Clear philosophy of atomic habits. And he says that if you improve by 1% a day over the exponential, it's like stress compounds, but so does the good in your life, that also compounds,
Absolutely.
and that you can
Absolutely.
grow like 37 times. And to stop that compounding, as you so beautifully do already by taking notice, and rather than saying to your kids, oh, now, no, not now, dad's busy, or to your parent, or to your animals, oh, get off the couch, or what are you trying to
Mm.
do? You're actually going, hey, what are they trying to tell me? And then make the change. And a lot of the sleep experts, stress experts, and resilience experts that we have on Blisspot share this tip that throughout the day, what we do is we often just keep going, 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 even for 12 or 18 hours. And by that time, our body is so depleted that we can't sleep properly. And it impacts our sleep, and then that
Yeah.
impacts how we feel the next day. Like you say, it
It's
goes on and on.
like a child. You
Yeah,
burn them out all day,
that's it.
right? And if they
That's
haven't hit their naps or whatever, they're literally so tired that they scream. Like, I see it with our 1-year-old more than the 3-year-old, but like they will kick up an absolute stink. And it's not because they're not tired, it's because they're too tired,
They're
right?
overtired. That's it. And then they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
cannot switch off. But adults are exactly the same. So
Mm.
those experts suggest that if you take 5, 10 minute breaks per day, just 10 minutes, or even 5 minutes, or even 3 minutes, or even 1 minute if you can't do 10 minutes,
Mm.
and just stop. Like, sometimes I get really frustrated when I'm working at my computer if I have a tech problem and I can't sort it out, and I'm trying to work it out on YouTube and it's just not going my way. I can feel me getting more and more frustrated. I know at that time I have to stop, and even sometimes I'll go outside and just go for a little walk in nature. That is one of the best things, like green,
Yeah.
blue, the sky. They're so healing, those colors, and they
Mm.
refresh you. They give you energy back, because we put out a lot of energy during the day, but we must take the time and the space to give back to ourselves. It's all about
Yeah.
self love, loving yourself enough to do that
And
rather
I
than
think,
pushing ourselves.
yeah, you're a lot more disciplined than I am for sure, like by a margin. I don't respect sleep as much as I should. Like I'm more of a 6 hours kind of sleeper, and breaks are very like I take breaks for sure, but I'm also a smoker. So, my 10 minutes comes from, nipping outside, doing all of that. But the morning stuff, that like I'm with you on that 1,000%, where you're setting yourself up for the day, down to the like, and you can be as granular as you want, right? Like I used to be an snoozer. I would snooze like 6, 7 times. If I had to be up at 7, my first alarm's at 5:30, and you can imagine when you live with someone like that, it is unpleasant. But, I felt like I was doing what I had to do. Now I'm a one snooze, right? And literally to buy me that morning minute. I don't actually go back to sleep anymore. But especially like, this week, the alarm goes off at 6. The snooze is 9 minutes later. That 9 minutes is me visualizing my day. What does it look like
I love that.
from the next hour to, and I'll my phone, like I don't scroll, but it's a tool, right? So check the calendar. Okay, cool. This time I have this. Where are the kids gonna be during this, whole exercise? Like when, timing the dog care, timing collecting the chicken's eggs and giving them their food for the day, that kind of thing. And so by the time I actually get out of bed 9 minutes later, I'm not frantically trying to catch up my brain with the things that need to happen because I already know what it all looks like during that, what you call it, wake up mode, so I'm caught up before I get started.
I love that. It's
Uh,
like you've set yourself up. You've set your
yeah,
mind up for the day, and yeah, I love that.
absolutely. And certain things like I had an incident last year where I was my heart rate was so low that I technically was unconscious. I was still standing, barely. but this was in the middle of a baseball game, warmer day, sort of high 20s, and I can feel it, it sort of feels like heart palpitations and stuff. And I used to get that a lot, like after a warm shower. And this dude on our team, I was like, bro, like, sums up. This happens to me every now and again, but it's never happened in public. It's usually after a shower. And he took my pulse and he's like, dude, you're like, and stick your tongue out, that kind of thing. And turns out I was that incredibly dehydrated over time because I wasn't taking care of that component as well as I should. I thought I was, but you know, there it is, it shows, right? For so long that I was so what happened when my body gets warm, aka a warm shower or standing in the sun, your arteries open up or whatever, and my heart was didn't have enough oxygen or whatever like water gives you to effectively pump blood when that slight opening happened. So I now front load my water drink. I've drunk about 2 liters of water by 10 a.m. Before I have my coffee, I've drunk a liter of water, things like
Likewise.
that
Yeah,
that I've
that's
had to
right.
do because,
You make it
the
happen.
problem was identified. I'm aware of it, deal with it, and it's no longer an issue, you know? Um,
It's very simple too to take action, and but your
yeah,
body is the most powerful supercomputer you'll ever find on the planet, and it's always giving you information about you to keep you well, healthy, happy. But the problem is not you specifically, but humans, we don't listen to it, we override it. We go, oh no, I'm not really tired, I'll just keep pushing myself, or the work report's too important. And I'm not minimizing that, because sometimes we might have to work long hours to get something done to meet a big deadline. But Sally McGrath, who's a burnout specialist in Blisspot, she was saying you can do that. You can push yourself for periods of time, but then make sure you rest and restore. So if you stay up all night working on a report, ideally as soon as you can on the weekend, you really catch up on some sleep to get yourself back to where you were. Or if
for
you
sure.
had a
And
long extended deadline, it might be a or something that you need.
yeah, yeah. And during the day too, like those days, they still exist in my life. Like I haven't restructured to the point where I don't have big days. Like that's unrealistic, right?
Yeah.
But understanding that that day is coming. For me, it's Thursdays, right? Thursdays in my life are jam-packed. And there's a few things that I intentionally do. So, coincidentally, baseball training is now on Wednesday nights this season. Perfect, right? I get my physicality, that some of that competitiveness, hanging out with the boys. Like my wife plays as well on team, so
So
we get to
fun.
spend that time
Yeah.
together away from the kids, you know, and it's a different kind of bonding when you play sport with your partner. Like it's very different. Sometimes there's some friction, but like you know what you're getting into, right? Like we bicker sometimes when I think she could be doing something different or she thinks I could be doing something different on the field, but for the most part, because we're on the same team, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite productive, especially like coming home in the car and we're doing that post of some of those interactions and stuff. But so we get all that out, have a really nice dinner, like not going out for dinner or whatever, but like we'll have our chicken rice and veg, or we'll make some tacos or something, something real like clean, battery driven. Get a good rest because we've exercised, we've done, each had big days. She would have worked on a Wednesday, I would have worked and juggled the baby on a Wednesday. So then come Thursday, I'm feeling really good in the morning, keep my food up, keep my fluids up, and I can just bang all day without feeling bad, you know? And it carries through too, because the recovery through that day into Friday, I'm still feeling good. Yeah, so I like what you mean about identifying those things and then doing the right steps before, during, and after to give your body the tools it actually needs
Yeah.
to get you through those moments. I think you might have touched on it, but are you into like a lot of like natural healing stuff, right? I had this
Definitely.
incredible story. I actually saw the doctor, myself for 4 months, and they put me through this intense purging procedure. So I drank some stuff, and then they made me drink coconut water, like 20 liters of it, right? And it all came back out. It wasn't pretty. Um, but, you know, as it was coming out, like initially it was black, right? And I'm like, what on earth is in my body right now? And they were doing like a running commentary. They're like, yep, that's all your, toxins and this and that. And this was like a 4 hour process. And then it started becoming red. And I'm like, oh God, like, what have I done to myself? You start questioning the whole thing because red coming out of your body is only one thing, right? And she was like, yep, that's all your, bad blood. We're getting rid of that too. And then eventually it became clear, right? And they're like, all right, cool. Now you're sort of, here's your baseline. Then they gave me a bunch of like herbal, pastes and teas and whatever, and I had to drink that consistently. That was the most effective treatment that I had had up until that point in my life. And I've been dealing with psoriasis for about 5 years. And this same person helped out a family member of mine who collapsed in the gym, and they were super fit. Like this guy was yoked in his late 50s, right? Just, quite young, but not, young, young. Very active, very social, He was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. Essentially, 80% of his body was a write-off, was what the doctors said. They said, you got 6 months, figure it out. And he went and saw this doctor, and she did a similar procedure, purged his body, and then gave it the tools it needed to help him. And he ended up living another 4.5 years.
Wow.
Um, but interestingly, like he didn't, I think he did a little bit of chemo initially before he saw this doctor, which was very aggressive, and 10% effectiveness kind of thing. He did a scan and showed way more improvement to the point where it was close to undetectable
Wow.
because his body was fighting what he had. Um, it was an incredible insight into like the things that we're actually capable of if we give ourselves the tools to deal with, and that translates in many different aspects, right? Like for sport, for work, for whatever. But in practicing these things, me personally, I've found that my life has improved in a lot of ways, not just, carrying the daily stresses or whatever, but, you know, in the consequence of taking care of these things are that you will get that promotion. Your business will grow. Your family life is way more intimate, and you can connect with people better. Like, sometimes you're super stressed and you'll go to a party anyway and you'll slam a couple of drinks. You can't actually connect with anyone because you're too busy in here and, Um, so you can't actually connect with the world. You're just sort of still inside yourself existing, in these environments. Like, yeah, the outward benefits you don't even realize until a year or two later, and you're like, holy shit, my life has changed so much, and it's
A-
great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it's a circular journey too. I think we've got to be kind to ourselves because things will be going well. And then, sometimes it can be two steps forward and a step back. But if you look back, as you said, like to 1 year ago or 3 years ago, things can be quite different. And It's also being really super kind to yourself, like you're not drinking. I think that's fantastic. Drinking is such a toxin. It creates so much stress and chaos in this world. I'm sure that, a few social drinks here and there are fine, but a lot of people, if they feel it is changing them or changing their moods or changing how present they feel in situations, yes, it is a great idea to support yourself and drink not at all or drink certainly less. So that's a fantastic change. And with sleep, like Shuj, I can tell you're quite young. So, when I was young, in my 20s, I very unhealthily only slept about 4 hours a night quite often. I did used to catch up. I didn't have kids then, so I could do my big catch ups, but I'd really burn the candle at every year end. I just wouldn't do that to myself now, except for an extreme situation if I really had to stay up for a night and then I'd catch up, whatever. But I think we need to, as you so rightly said, look back and see how far we've come. We mightn't have made all the changes that we want in our life, but we're making some. I say to people, often people will come into my practice too and say they're going through a big stressful time and then they want to make other changes as well on top of that. And I say, well, maybe wait until you got through this thing and then focus on that thing too, because focus is really powerful. And if we disperse our energy, we might end up trying to do quite a lot of things and none of them that well. So really being kind to yourself and say, well, I've kicked that goal, I've done that, and now I'm going to move on to the next one as well. And certainly they say that people overestimate how much we can do in a year and underestimate how much we can do in 3 years. So yeah, time, change, we don't have to do everything all at once. And it is a journey, I believe, to train our mind, because what you're talking about is if you're at a party and you're thinking, often if you're thinking and thinking, that's what stops you from being present. That often it can fearful thoughts, competitive thoughts, all these different sorts of thoughts. And when your mind, it's just really, really practical. When your mind is so busy telling you all this stuff, a lot of it which isn't even true, you can't hear the wisdom of your heart. You can't hear your intuition. But the more we train our mind to be still and calm, which is spent by breath work, is really powerful. Just taking those still moments to look out the window and just really even think of nothing for, just being, practicing being. And I take for a walk. I live in the city, so we go for a walk every day in nature. That is just beautiful. And while I'm there, though, I'm not just going unconsciously for a walk where I'm just thinking about the grocery list, what I've got to do for the day, all those kinds of things. I'm actually practicing being present. So if you want to be present and you feel you're not present, it's like every other skill. People think, I want to be present, or I'll just intend that I'll be present, or the universe, I believe in the universe, so I'll be present. From my experience and working with many other people, it's not really like that. It's a skill. Presence, if you're not present and you want to be present, it's practicing. When I go for a walk, I was lucky enough to go to Peru, and we had Peruvian guides taking us on tours. When they walk, it's so different to the way we walk in the West. We walk around like, rushing and thinking, and you can tell when people are walking unconsciously, but they used to walk slowly, deliberately like this, and it was like every footstep, it was like they were kissing the earth. It was so deliberate and so present, and I came away from being in their presence feeling absolutely incredible, which is what we all are really looking for. When we're rushing around, we're trying to do lots of things to feel that, but we need to train our body to do that. Breath work is so good for presence. If you're tense or you're anxious, if you're feeling having a where you feel really angry or you feel really, really withdrawn and small, when we feel that, all we have to do is breathe. And that sounds so simple, but your body will not want you to do that. It won't want you to do that. You'll go, I hate breathing, or I don't have time to breathe now, or it feels really uncomfortable. So when I do it in that situation, I give myself a number. I go, I'm going 10 breaths. Just start off small. I'm going to do 5 breaths. Do 5 really deep breaths, breathe into the tension, breathe into the stress, breathe into the anxiety, whatever it might be, and it starts to shift and your internal body starts to open up and you start to get more space where you can be connected to the universal intelligent field where you all these insights and answers, all the things you exactly want to know for yourself will just come to you and be there because you've created space within you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and other really things to be present is you can chopping vegetables. Like usually we'll cook and we're thinking about other things, but if you actually, or when you clean your teeth, really think about cleaning every single tooth. And these are all just tools. It's like the Karate Kid when they used to do the
Yeah, yeah.
wax on, wax off thing. That was actually to train his mind rather than thinking, this is boring, I hate this, why me, why do I do this? But we're thinking, I'm painting a beautiful fence, I'm getting every stroke right. Oh, that matches up nicely. It's a very different mindset and a way of being. So
Yeah.
there's just a few things that
Awareness.
you can do.
Awareness, right? As well. Like you're taking that time and I mean I love breath like breathing exercises. It accomplishes for me it does two things. One, oxygenates, which we know is good. Um, and the second is creating that awareness of self, surrounds, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in the moment, right? It can change, but yeah, I've big breathwork guy. I did a breathwork thing in Bali, and it was about 40 minutes, and it was intense. There were people crying and wailing and like really raw emotions because of the things that come up when you're digging into that awareness. um
It's a
and
release. It's
yeah.
releasing doesn't belong to you anymore. That it's so powerful. Crying. People will say to me all the time, "Oh, sorry, I'm crying," or they'll try to stop themselves from crying. I'm going, crying is such a healthy release of stuff, old baggage, stuff that's not even yours. Often it's been passed down
Mm,
to you. So if you can release it and have a good cry, that's why you feel so much better.
for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. Deborah, we've had an amazing time. Let's do two more things. What's a piece of advice you'd give to someone who is taking on a lot or starting something new and is feeling those feelings we've described, overwhelmed or stressed or anxious? If there was, if you could sum it up in one way for those people, what could it be?
Well, if you're feeling stressed or anxious, often we will try to not feel that way. And that's what you want to do. You want to eat it away or drink it away or watch TV because you don't want to feel those feelings. But it's the most powerful thing you can do is accept this is presence, exactly how you feel in the moment. So go, I feel feeling into yourself awareness. Sometimes it's really helpful to shut your eyes because when you've got your eyes open, there's all the external stimuli. But when you shut your eyes, you're really incredibly aware of what's within and just breathe into it and accept that that is how you feel. And this is often it might be a pattern for you, like you might have come from, which many people have, from a very stressful childhood situation. And we're not criticizing people here because parents and guardians often do the very best that they can, but they've often come from very stressful environments as well, or childhood childhood situation that gets passed on. But if we're stressed and anxious in our current life, often it is a pattern that we've learnt from when we're young, from people who didn't have those coping skills to say, oh darling, it's okay, you've got this, just breathe, take a breath, take a moment, you'll know what to do. If we were, sometimes we didn't have that support, and when we're young we actually really do need the support of our parents. We need it. We don't have emotional reasoning centers yet. They don't start to develop between 5 and 8 depending on if you're male or female, and they're not fully developed often until you're 25. So you need people around you. If, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child, to help children reason through all the things that can happen in this world. So as an adult, if we're feeling stressed or anxious, chances are we've gone into overwhelm with our feelings. Our feelings are, our reasoning centers aren't switched on. So the first thing to do is just to accept it, to breathe into it, and then you're an adult now and your reasoning centers are fully developed, so you switch them on. So say to yourself, as you would to a child that you love, you've got this, you can do this, the answers will come to you, you'll be all right. Just as you would to a child, you're talking to yourself. What is the first, let's just forget about the big picture, what is the very first small step that I can make to work towards getting out of this situation? What's one little positive action that I can take? So it's really, when we feel overwhelmed, acknowledging it, breathing into it, and talking to ourselves as we would to a friend that we love or to a child that we love. Because then what we're doing is changing our thoughts, because often unconsciously we'll take on maybe the voices that we heard that we're even young, and some of those voices can be quite harsh and not that supportive at all, saying, oh, get up, don't cry, grow up, what are you, you're a young man, get on with it. Whereas really probably at that time we needed a hug and some love. And I think the world is evolving in that way, but we all have voices in our heads that are not supporting us, and our anxiety, our feelings, if we're not feeling good, it's really helpful to ask yourself, what am I thinking now? And you can change it. If we're worrying about money, that's such a massive, big global issue. If we're worrying about money, we can be thinking, I'll never get through this. How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay my bills? If we're thinking that, we can say, stop, just wait a minute. The world is very abundant. There is abundance everywhere. Look at all the leaves on the tree. Look at all the stars in the sky. There's abundance everywhere. And start really developing that abundant mindset for yourself rather than a worrying mindset, whilst taking practical actions, whilst getting out and getting a job or finding new work. You've got to take the practical actions as well, but your mindset, it's much easier for you to take those actions while your mindset is positive, not overwhelmed by stress.
Amazing. And where can people find out more about you and the work that you guys do at Blisspot and yourself?
Oh, thanks, Shush. Well, I've got a website, deborahtyson.com, where they can find about more about that I do personally, and the business, the community that I put together to really help people get the support they need. There's so many free resources at Blisspot. There's over 1,000 blogs. There's a vision board, goal setting, a personal wellbeing index, a bucket list. There's all these things that you can get access to support your own wellbeing for free, because we don't want people to struggle. We don't want money to be the reason that they don't get help. And then we also have podcasts. These are subscription, but programs you can do to take you on a guided personal journey. Thousands of podcasts, courses, and meditations that you can also listen to really help you. So it's a place where you can get support for your personal journey, because we think that we're all here to support each other, and we're a community, and next year we're running a lot of activities and things that people can get involved with to support their mental and emotional health, and just feeling like themselves in their everyday life, their full, empowered, beautiful selves.
Yeah, amazing. I'll have linked across our platforms as well. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an amazing discussion.
Thank you, Shuj.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure to be here. I feel really honoured to be part of your podcast offering and to spend the time with you and learn. I've learned so much from you as well with all your beautiful insights. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll call it there, and we'll see everyone in our next episode. Thank you very much. for watching, and thank you again, Deborah, for being here.
Welcome.